VCF AMD GPUs, OMG. McDonald's definitely not loving it. Start your sync engines. Nir Zook is retiring. HPE is expanding their agent lineup. Google and Meta are going to be teaming up, and we're going to take a closer look at Oracle's CSO retiring in this episode of the Tech Field Day Rundown. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Tech Field Day Rundown. Today is August the 27th, and we hope that all of our listeners in the fine state of Georgia are having a great day because it's National Peach Day, which, if I'm not mistaken, is a holiday in the state of Georgia, but I could also be mistaken. One thing that I'm not mistaken about is the great lineup of stories that we have coming your way today, courtesy of the internet and courtesy of my good friend and co-host, Mr. Alistair Cook. Al, welcome to the show.
It is a pleasure to be here, and I'm looking forward to quite possibly getting to Atlanta and enjoying some peaches, although not for a little while. KubeCon is in Atlanta, Georgia this year, and a little bit later in the year.
Well, I promise you that there will still be peaches left because that's kind of their thing. Just like talking about the news is our kind of thing. And we're going to go ahead and jump in for our first story because, as everybody knows, this week is VMware Explore. And during the show, Broadcom announced that its VMware Cloud Foundation platform will soon support AMD GPUs and include a preview of an AI agent to help automate IT tasks. VCF private AI services will become a standard feature in VCF 9.0. And new support for Anthropic's Model Context Protocol and S3 storage will give AI agents broader data access. These updates will let IT teams deploy, monitor, and securely share AI models across AMD and NVIDIA GPUs, while also unifying compute, storage, and networking to simplify AI workloads. You know what that means? Lower costs, better management of growing AI environments. Al, I know that we've talked recently about VCF 9.0. Do you think the news that they're expanding to include AMD GPUs is going to help drive adoption?
Well, I think it's a pretty significant thing that the AMD GPUs are being added to the support for the NVIDIA GPUs that has been around for a while. It's vital to have options for offload, and particularly with the cost and availability problems with those NVIDIA GPUs, the AMD ones may well be a very serious option for customers. I know cost-conscious customers have often used AMD CPUs in their VMware virtualization hosts. I've definitely seen that as a rise, say, particularly cost-conscious customers. And the AMD GPUs will probably appeal to some of those same customers, particularly if they're more available than getting your hands on some of the NVIDIA GPUs that have been in short supply. We've seen backlogs of server supply because these server vendors simply cannot get hold of enough of the NVIDIA GPUs, so support for the AMD ones could be very significant. I think it's really significant also in here that there's this addition of the S3 API to vSAN storage. And this is another of the pieces of the announcement. It's not just that the VMware Private AI service supports S3, it's that the storage cluster built into VMware Cloud Foundation or licensed along with VMware Cloud Foundation and vSAN supports not just its own storage protocol, but is providing an S3 interface as well. We do see a lot of storage of data for AI pipelines landing on S3 compatible storage. It's the most widely known standard for object storage, and I think that's a really significant element. Definitely this idea of driving efficiency of resources, avoiding islands of resources for different AI projects, which is one of the problems that we do end up seeing is these little islands of AI resource for one application and then island of AI resource for another application. We see that as technologies are early. We've always seen this in new pieces of technology. It gets adopted on a very tactical basis by each business unit and then progressively comes into that central support in the core IT organization. And that's really, I think, what's being targeted here, bringing the delivery of AI into just being one of those core infrastructures that it's delivered by central infrastructure teams. And this is where the VCF, VMware Cloud's Foundation product, and then adding the private AI as a standard component of VCF. A little bit of a concern on this is there's no timeline given for support of these. AMD GPUs and the ROCm framework that's used to distribute jobs across them. We'll see how that rolls over time. and just how long it takes before Broadcom is shipping this stuff and customers can actually use it. Probably fairly fast would be my guess. They've been doing pretty well at spending the R&D money on the things that are important to large companies. So we should see this move reasonably fast, and hopefully we'll get to cover this at an event in the near future. I know we've covered VMware Private AI at previous events with Tech Field Day. We should see some more of this too. We'd like to see less problems with McDonald's, and particularly with looking after their AI tool for hiring, McHiring, and Olivia, their chatbot. Researchers Ian Carroll and Sam Curry discovered that somebody had not been great with their password hygiene. Apparently, they reused their luggage code and provide access to over 64 million job applicant records, including names, emails, the full details, as if you had access to everything. Paradox AI is the company behind the Olivia chatbot. They said that only some of the records contain personal data and that the exposed information could have been used then by scammers. McDonald's blamed Paradox AI, which has since fixed the issue and promised stronger security and a bug bounty. This seems like a kind of security 101 issue, Tom. Is somebody really should have been fired for this kind of thing?
I'm not sure they're not going to be fired before this is all said and done with. As my friend Zoe Rose pointed out, at least it was 6 characters long, right? It's better than a 4-character PIN code. But yeah, this was a massive breach. Here's the thing to me. I think what happened is that when they set this up, they set a dummy password, PIN code, whatever, and then never went back and fixed it, right? Because why would we bother with that? We're trying to craft the perfect LLM response to job application question. Okay, yeah. We know where the work went in here. The work went in to reduce the amount of time that the HR staff at McDonald's is going to have to use to process applications. And yeah, just think about how many McDonald's you have in your town, times however many towns, however big enough to have a McDonald's. And that's how many job applications that they get on a daily basis. So I get why they want to do this. But I think what is important here to understand, first of all, yeah, if your password's 1234556 or some derivation thereof, just go change it now. You can listen to me while you're doing that. The problem is what AI represents for the future. And this wasn't McDonald's that caused this problem. This was a contractor that McDonald's contracted out to that created a platform that tied back into McDonald's. So this is the age-old problem of if you don't do it yourself and you have somebody else take care of it for you, you have assumed all of their code quality issues and liability issues when you implement their solution live on your site. Because I promise you, anybody who gets this information leaked, they're not going after, who was it? Paradox AI? They're going after McDonald's because I didn't apply to work at Paradox AI. I applied to work at McDonald's. You have to double check the things that come in. And if the people who are accepting that work don't know to check those things or don't do a code walk to figure out if there is a hard-coded password in the back end, then those people need to be replaced by people who are not AIs, who are freaking smart enough to know to check those things. That's security 101, like you said. Never assume that the people who turned in the stuff had your best interests in mind, because once they've turned that module over to you, it's not their problem anymore. Now, I'm sure that there's going to be tough decisions. Yeah, there's a bug bounty and some other stuff. I'm sure there's going to be a payment involved somewhere along the line from Paradox AI to McDonald's that's probably going to be used as the basis for the lawsuit that's going to be filed against McDonald's for this. So, who knows? Maybe it's enough to pay for another free year of credit monitoring for everybody. You never know. Vast Data has introduced SyncEngine, a new feature of its Vast AI OS designed to help solve the last mile problem of data fragmentation for AI pipelines. By acting as a universal data router, it eliminates the need for expensive third-party tools, simplifying data cataloging, migration, and preparation. This new feature, which is being offered to Vast customers at no additional cost, accelerates AI adoption by providing a direct and efficient path from raw data to actionable intelligence. For this story, we're going to turn it over to Stephen Foskett for more information about Vast Data's SyncEngine. Stephen, take it away.
What stands out to me about this announcement is how it reflects a real shift in where the bottlenecks are for enterprise AI. For the last couple of years, the focus has been all about GPUs: how many you get, how fast you can train, how to optimize model performance. But increasingly, the harder problem isn't compute, it's data. Most enterprises already have the data they need, but it's scattered. It's all over the place in file servers that never got migrated, buckets of objects in the cloud or even multiple clouds, and records buried inside SaaS apps that were never designed to be data sources for AI. That fragmentation really slows down projects and doesn't just increase the size of the models. And it has been a real challenge as people are trying to implement things like RAG. What Vast is trying to do with SyncEngine is collapse all of that effort, cataloging, migration, and synchronization, into a single platform service. Instead of building brittle custom scripts or buying multiple SaaS tools, the idea is that you point SyncEngine at your data estate and it builds a searchable global catalog. Then you can stream that or synchronize that directly into AI pipelines at line rate speed. From there, the rest of the Vast stack, which includes their Insight engine and Agent engine, can prepare and use the data for retrieval augmented generation or agentic workflows. In other words, SyncEngine is really the front door to making all that messy distributed enterprise data ready. Now, the upside here is clear: simpler applications, fewer moving parts, faster time to raw data and actionable insight. But there's also a trade off. If you collapse all of those functions into one platform, you're not just removing tool sprawl, but you're also consolidating control. Vast is essentially saying, bring everything into the Vast OS and we'll take it from there. That's appealing if you're already a Vast customer, but it does raise questions about how portable that application approach will be if your data lives in multiple ecosystems. Still, it's hard to argue with the idea that last mile problems need to be solved. And also, it's really nice to see that this is a no cost extra feature. Enterprises can't keep spending cycles finding and moving data around. And if SyncEngine really delivers on the promise of universal cataloging and high speed migration at no cost, well, that's a strong play and a good reason to look at Vast as your storage platform. It shifts the conversation from do we have enough GPUs to how quickly can we actually make our data useful, which is probably the most important question for enterprise AI adoption. Still, this is really only applicable for people in the Vast ecosystem. So I guess people should give it a look.
Palo Alto Networks announced that founder and CTO, Zuk, has retired after more than 20 years, during which he helped build the company into a global cybersecurity leader and pioneered next-generation firewalls. Lee Klarich, the company's chief product officer since 2006, has been appointed to the board and assumed the CTO role, tasked with driving the company's AI-powered security vision and platform development. Zook expressed confidence in Clarich's technical leadership, whilst the CTO, Nikesh Arora, and the board praised Zook's foundational contributions. Building the company from the start, definitely foundational contribution, and welcomed Klarich as the ideal successor to guide Palo Alto Networks' technology strategy into the future. It's always difficult when the founder leaves. Is Palo Alto in good hands in this transition, Tom?
I think they are. And the reason why is because I think that foundationally, Palo Alto is a different company than Nirzook founded back in the day. I think that through acquisitions and through their positioning in the market, they really have what it's going to take to kind of move into the future. And I know I've said this on a couple of episodes of the rundown in the past, but I want to reiterate it. You know that you've had an impact on the industry when people don't say they're deploying application level firewalls anymore. They say, oh, I'm deploying some Palo Altos, because that has become the genericized trademark, just like Velcro and Kleenex and everything else. It is synonymous with that category. And don't forget that they've picked up so many companies over the years, like CloudGenix and Apparetto. They just happen to be two companies that have presented at Field Day in the past, but there's many, many more. And I think that combine this story with the one that we're going to take a closer look at later. And I think what you're seeing is an opportunity for some of the more traditional folks in Silicon Valley to take a look around and see what's coming and say, maybe this is where I need to step off the boat. And what's important to me here is that Nirzook is retiring. This isn't the age-old story of I'm going to take my money and I'm going to run somewhere and I'm going to restart another startup in 3 or 4 years that I hope is going to get bought. This feels like a real retirement. And bravo to the man. Like, we had the opportunity to hear from him back at Security Field Day. I think it was Security Field Day 2. And talk about a dynamic speaker. The man can just walk in and talk. And we were all captivated watching him do this. that kind of person has earned the ability to do pretty much whatever they want, right? Like if Nirzook wants to get on a boat and sail around the world, more power to him. If he wants to, I don't know, take up model drone helicopter racing, right on, my man. You've earned it. You've left Palo Alto in a position where they can continue to be the dominant force in the security space. And honestly, having people like Lee Klarich step up to take over the CTO role, that's not going to be a problem. I think everybody's going to be happy with this. Nir, enjoy your retirement, but remember, don't get too bored, because whatever you buy, you're going to have to own for a while. Meta has signed a 6-year, $10 billion deal with Google to use Google Cloud servers and services, boosting both companies' AI infrastructure efforts. The deal supports Meta's plan to build new AI data centers and invest heavily in AI, including work toward AI General Intelligence, AGI, even as it pauses hiring in its restructured AI labs. For Google, the agreement expands its cloud business as it attempts to compete with heavyweights like Amazon and Microsoft. Al, do you think Google and Meta teaming up is going to be able to move the needle in both areas?
Well, $10 billion is a fairly significant commitment for Meta. Although over 8 years, that's what 1.6 billion a year, 1.7 billion a year. Yeah, it's a significant amount of money. It's a nice long-term commitment. Gives some surety that there's a buyer for the infrastructure that Google builds, and gives some certainty for Meta, probably some controls around costs for Meta around their infrastructure for running AI. Interesting to see that there's this continued commitment. Meta's projecting to spend $72 billion on AI, so this $10 billion commitment with Google is a significant piece of that, but it's certainly not the biggest piece. There's going to be a whole bunch of assistance required. Mark Zuckerberg has said that the country is going to spend hundreds of $billions on massive data centers. So, yeah, this is a piece of it, but it isn't the biggest piece, I don't think. It's good for both organizations having some commitment, some long-term commitment and supply of data centers. And we've seen this for other AI vendors as well, setting up their relationships to get some certainty of supply over long periods of time. That certainty is that transition from being we're just experimenting, we're trying things, we don't know if it's going to work, to we actually need to make some money out of this. We need to be sure that we can make some money out of this, and we need to be production ready. And there's quite a shift in that from this non-guaranteed vast amounts of resource to actually some guaranteed resources with some committed spends. This is very much what we see in enterprise companies as they transition from starting using cloud to massive use of cloud rather than having their own data centers to run everything. What we see for Google themselves, yeah, the $10 billion is about 1 quarter's worth of their current turnover for cloud. When you spread it over 6 years, that's 24 quarters. It's a small but not trivial part of the total turnover. This is a significant deal, but it's not an earth-shattering, groundbreaking kind of deal. These billions of dollars numbers turn up way more often than you might think in data center infrastructure and public cloud. Hewlett-Packard Enterprise, of course, the company we know as HPE, has updated its Juniper networking portfolio now that they're actually merged together. They've acquired. With Mist AI features to enable self-driving network operations, the upgraded Marvis AI assistant uses telemetry and multi-agent framework to troubleshoot issues and suggest automated fixes. Sounds fun. Hopefully we can implement some automated fixes too, and we have some confidence. The aim here is to cut resolution times by 85% and move towards the self-driving actions, allowing IT teams to automatically resolve problems while maintaining control. And using large experience model with Marvis Minis predicts and prevents performance issues and collaboration tools. In data centers, Marvis integrates with Apstra for network insights and service automation, and together with HPE OpsRamp, these updates provide AI-powered monitoring and automation across hybrid, multi-cloud, and on-premises environments. Are we moving to AI ops for all of our networking, Tom? Do we still need junior and maybe senior engineers?
We do. This is actually the topic of the podcast that we released this week, the Tech Field Day podcast. We talked to Sunalini at Juniper, HPE Juniper Networking, specifically about agentic AI and the fact that it really is needed in networking. Here's one thing that you have to understand about the current state of operations in networking. It has gotten insanely complicated to manage all of these different devices, in part because we now have more data than we ever had in the past. And that's great for some things, but it's not great when you're being overwhelmed by literal like tickers everywhere. The interface is going up and down at a moment's notice, and all this performance data and link utilization and stuff like that. It's distracting, honestly. But at the same time, we're dealing with situations where people are trying to build encapsulations on top of that to prevent you from getting overwhelmed. But what you run into is situations where it literally hides pieces that it doesn't think are important to you. And then, as a seasoned network operations engineering type person, you get frustrated by that, right? Like, I need to dig in and I need to see this and I need to talk about this. And it's not there because we're like, but we have to make it easy. It's to me, it's like the self-checkout line at your favorite grocery store. It's like they don't make those for people who are good at scanning things. They make them for people who are actually very bad at it. So it makes it hard on people who have experience or capability there. That's where an AI agent comes in, right? So to extend that metaphor, if you will, the AI agent is like an application on your phone that you use to scan all of the items in your cart as you're buying them, so that when you get to the front to do the checkout, you just download the information to the register and the register says, okay, you owe us this much money. There's no, part by part kind of thing that you have to deal with there. And HPE Juniper Networking, formerly Juniper Networks, has a huge advantage in this area because they've been building Marvis for years. They were building Marvis before they got acquired by Juniper. In fact, that's one of the reasons why Juniper bought them. And that AI infrastructure permeated everything that Juniper was doing, especially on the campus side. Fast forward to today, and you've got this land rush of people that are trying to adopt AI infrastructure, specifically agentic AI, into what they do. Well, Marvis is an agent. Marvis is a whole team of agents. And those Marvis minis, which we've seen a number of times at Mobility Field Day, are a great way for people to, go out and collect information and make decisions about that. But the thing that Sunalini talked about in the podcast, and that's one of the things that's a highlight here, is this idea of a self-driving network. Instead of me having to look at this and say, well, what do you recommend as my best course of action? This is the junior administrator, if you want to call him that, walking up to you going, hey, I noticed this, this, and this. Here's what I think we should do. Hit the button and it'll make it happen. Well, that's a whole lot of an easier decision-making process. And you can still, just like any other system, you can see what it thought and why it thought that. And here's the citations for the best practices. And here's the areas where this is now a security vulnerability and all these other things. Or you can just say, you know what, I trust you and let's make it happen. I think that's a huge leap forward because it shifts the discussion away from can I trust AI to AI is trustworthy enough to do these things. And once it's proven its track record, then I can start trusting it to do other things and I can build more on that, which means that I'm collecting more data to figure out how to better solve other issues. And that means that it gets iteratively more intelligent as we go along. That's a huge boon to people who are running networks because it means that the junior people can spend more time studying and understanding why things are set up the way that they are and less time breaking them so that they can transition into being great network engineers and senior operations people in the future because they're trained on a properly designed network that is operated in a way that doesn't cause massive resiliency issues. All right, we had a story we wanted to take a closer look at, and we kind of alluded to it earlier, but here we go. Ann Davidson, who has been the chief security officer at Oracle for almost the last 40 years, her entire tenure, has decided that she is going to be heading out. She has been known for her leadership and some controversial stances that she's taken on security issues. This is not the first person that's been leaving Oracle as of late, though, because there's been some layoffs, and Oracle has definitely shifted its focus toward AI-focused strategies. These two things are not directly linked. And her departure is not linked to any of the recent security incidents that they've had. Instead, it's posited that this is actually a generational change because the company wants to bring in younger executives to help tackle new cybersecurity challenges and AI issues. And Al, I thought it would be great for us to kind of take a closer look at this story because it looks at the way that the traditional guard in Silicon Valley is starting to realize that maybe this is the next paradigm shift that they're not ready to jump with. So let's take a look at the fact that someone who's been with Oracle for 40 years has said, now is the time when I want to step away. Do you think that Oracle will be able to replace that experience with younger talent, knowing that they're probably going to be very focused on how to adopt and secure AI?
It's hard to replace 40 years of experience, and Marianne has definitely adapted as the market has changed. She has been pulled to change her stance on security through the sort of .com explosion and all of the move from being very sort of slow paced innovation and security towards real time change to security and update. And there's definitely she's been part of the cultural changes at Oracle that have been a bit more about openness and a bit more about visibility of what's going on. That's very unnatural for Oracle, and the pace of change that's going on now also is very unnatural for Oracle. And this, I think, is what we're seeing, is that in order to accommodate the pace of change that is required to transform to a more AI-oriented organization, does require a kind of rip and replace. This is the challenge. This is as covered in the innovator's dilemma. When you have this very safe, secure stream of income for a long period of time, you're disincented to innovate. And it may well be a good time for a change of guard when there is a requirement for this new innovation to get people whose thinking is not clouded by how we did things 20 years ago, 30 years ago, and who will bring a completely new perspective. The challenge, of course, is losing the institutional knowledge that's gained, those insights from back when I had hair, which I did when she was new with the organization because I was still a teenager. The departure, I mean, her departure may well be simply, it's time to get out of this game. I don't want to come onto this next new wave. I've already been through a few waves. This is something that definitely comes to you if you're financially secure and moving out into your 60s, 70s, 80s, those kinds of times. You want to work less and enjoy your life, spend your time on a boat rather than on a boardroom. But what does it mean for Oracle? I think it is going to be part of a foundational shift. We've seen quite a lot of layoffs from Oracle, affecting even friends of ours, and transition in staffing. I think there is a risk, of course, that a lot of organizations that are saying AI is going to take over all of these jobs are finding that their implementation of AI isn't ready to take over those jobs and they need to rehire. Do you think Oracle's going to do a good job of reinventing itself for this new world, or do you think that the hangover of the long time and the large numbers of lawyers that Oracle is well known for is going to lead them to not being able to course correct enough?
Well, I mean, we do have patterns in the industry that we can look at, right? We saw Microsoft reinvent themselves from being an operating system company to being now an AI cloud application giant. We saw IBM literally turn that aircraft carrier on a dime and turn into a cloud company that's not selling mainframes, although they really are. But the identity of who IBM now is not wrapped up in that. I'm not saying it's not possible. It absolutely is. I'm saying that that's not a fun road to go down. And you have to have leadership that's willing to take those risks. IBM kind of had nothing left to lose, right? They acquired Red Hat and basically used Red Hat as a way to kind of transform the company. Microsoft basically had to get rid of Bill Gates and Steve Ballmer to make that transition. Nobody other than Satya Nadella could have made that happen. So what do you think? Longtime listener and friend of the show, Larry Ellison, what do you think? Do you think that the company can transform to be an AI giant? Oh, sorry, you were out sailing a sailboat. Sorry. I think that's going to be your hang up right there, is you can everybody. And you're not going to can everybody, but you can get rid of a lot of people. You can organizationally shift that structure as much as you want. But if the transformation isn't being led from the top down, then nobody's going to care. And I think that that's the challenge, right? And that's one of the reasons why I think it was time for Davidson to kind of step aside. Was, go back and look. 10 years ago, she told people they shouldn't be looking for bugs in Oracle code, right? She's the reason why everything in Oracle was labeled as unbreakable for a long time. And quite honestly, she's the reason why a lot of people were like, oh, yeah, I bet. Watch this. I think the challenge that you're going to run into is that for every person that is going to be wanting to make these leaps and bounds in the way that Oracle or even other companies are doing these kinds of things, you're going to have a bunch of old guard folks that are a little more cautious, a little more conservative. And I'm not saying that as a political ideology. I'm saying that as a person who is resistant to change. And quite honestly, I think you're going to see a lot of people who are a little bit more aware of the stock price that their 401k depends on. And so while they're getting dragged kicking and screaming into 2025, knowing that AI is the way and the light in the future and we've got to do this, are they willing to sell off sections of the company that aren't making money in order to fund more AI development? Or are they going to say, well, why don't we take a look-see at this? And if we can make it stick out for 18 more months, then I can retire with a cushy 401k and I don't have to worry about this anymore. I don't have those answers right now. And honestly, I don't think anybody at Oracle has those answers. I don't know of any company in the industry that has those answers right now. But I'll tell you one thing, those answers are not going to be coming from somebody who is north of 50. I'll put it that way. And yeah, okay, that sounds ageist. I'm not denying that at all. But people who are on the backside of their career with an amassed knowledge of the way that IT has run in the past don't look at things through the same lens that people who are on the front side of their career do. And look at the number of people coming up who are programmers versus who were not. Look at the number of people coming up who are comfortable using tools like ChatGPT and other associated AI systems versus those who are not. Look at the people who are flexible enough to do what it takes to get the job done versus the people who don't want anything to change because I figured this out and I'm tired of having to learn new things. You have to have the right mix of those people to make this happen. And all it takes is one little monkey wrench in the system to throw everything out of whack. Now that I'm off of my soapbox and everybody over the age of 50 is getting ready to leave a comment, hold on a minute, because there's some more stuff coming up that you're going to want to take advantage of. First one of those things is actually happening in just a couple of weeks, and it stars my good friend Al. Al, what are you going to be up to?
Well, I'm heading back out to Silicon Valley. I am going to be welcoming a pretty packed schedule of presenting companies at AI Infrastructure Field Day 3. We'll be running September 10th and 11th. You can catch us, of course, live on LinkedIn and on Textron TV. And we're going to have some pretty awesome times. I really have got a full schedule for those 2 days. And looking forward to spending some time with my delegates and my presenting companies as well. Of course, a couple of weeks later, Tom, it's you that returns to Silicon Valley.
That's right. I'm going to be back out there for Security Field Day, and we are announcing that we have Hewlett-Packard Enterprise, our friends at HPE, that are going to be a part of that event. And we are very excited to be welcoming them along with our other great presenting companies. Head over to techfieldday.com to see the whole list, including all of the delegates that we have confirmed. Some of my friends from the security space are going to be there. It's going to be a fun time. And first thing we're going to do is, of course, we're going to make sure that none of our passwords are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, because that's embarrassing. And then we're going to be coming back in October. Al, you're back up with some more fun.
I am indeed. Cloud Field Day returns October 22nd and 23rd. We're building out another great event to take a look at all things hybrid and multi-cloud. Going to have another great couple of days' time there. And it should be really fun to see what's been going on for some of our long-term friends, Fortinet and Oxide are a couple of the people that will be with us there. Fortinet, of course, will be at Security Field Day, their natural home too. Then, of course, the following week, it becomes Mr. Foskett's turn to travel. He gets to be at AI Field Day, October 29th and 30th. And again, we'll have a great lineup of people. You can play along on LinkedIn Live and, of course, catch up on all of the past events on the Tech Field Day website. So thanks for watching the Tech Field Day Rundown. You can catch new episodes every Wednesday. You can find them on YouTube. You can find them in your favorite podcast application. Do subscribe. Do send us a nice review. And of course, if you're watching us on Textron TV, hi. Lovely to see you. We'll be back next Wednesday. We will have lots of fresh news, everything that is great to hear about in the week in IT. So thank you very much for myself and for Tom Hollingsworth. We're wishing you and all of yours the greatest of days, the greatest of weeks.